You're listening to Bold Hearts, Big Moves, the show for female entrepreneurs who want it all: a thriving business, deep self love, and fulfilling relationships. I'm Erin Anderson, and each week we will dive into how to set stronger boundaries, make empowered choices, and show up in life and business with boldness, authenticity, and heart. Because let's be real, the money you make is directly related to the love that you have for yourself and the strength of your relationships. So if you're ready to lead with love and make those big moves with those bold hearts, let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to Bold Hearts, Big Moves. I have with us today a very, very fabulous guest. She and I have been chatting back and forth for quite a little bit now, and I really love a lot of the content that she shares, and I think you guys are going to love it too. Um, Especially those of you that want to get in and start keeping your word to yourselves. And Sam Moorison Wilson, I think, is the person that can really definitely talk about this thing. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about her business and it's like what she does and everything. But as we've been sitting here talking, the idea of the power of the do and actually keeping your word to yourself, like doing what you say you're going to do, like really showing up in that high vibe integrity just kept
Yeah.
honestly like verbally smacking me in the face. And so I was like, oh, this is the good stuff. This is what we've got to talk about. So Sam, thank you so much for showing up today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. And you are so right when it comes to the power of the do. I don't usually use that terminology. I don't say it in that way. But one of the best things we can do is to keep our word to ourselves. A lot of us feel like we say we have integrity towards keeping our word in work and relationships and all the things. But the one we break trust with the most is typically
Yeah.
ourselves. Yeah.
So true. So true. And you and I kind of have a very similar origin story. You know what I mean? Where we literally felt so broken. And isn't it very interesting? You also mentioned just a second ago about breaking your word to yourself, and yet we feel broken. And
Hmm.
as I've been so I did like coaching women through betrayal trauma, and I still talk about like trauma and healing trauma and how traumas are often like the thing, or stressors are the things that stop us often from like keeping our word to ourselves and getting out there and creating what we say we want to create, like actually showing up for ourselves, right? Like I still talk
Yeah.
about that stuff all the time. But the thing that I've noticed in all of my years of coaching, that the piece that was the most broken was one's word to oneself. That idea of self-betrayal is so key. I think even especially among women, that we have to betray ourselves just to make somebody else happy or to get somebody else off our back or to get somebody else to calm down or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And it's
Mm.
it's such a dangerous perspective to have, you
Yeah, it
know?
really is. And so, yes, our stories are very similar. I think I'm a little older than you, although
Who knows?
we
We'll
won't go
never
there.
know.
We'll never know. But I'll tell you, I lived a life of chaos for so long, married
Yeah.
and divorced multiple times. The last marriage that I was in was abusive, and I got out in 2015. Thankfully, I got out alive. And I'm very much now happily remarried. We've been remarried. We've been married for almost 2 years, and he is a true keeper. And that whole story, how that all happened, is just a God story for sure. We'll save that for another time. But March 8th of 2015 is the day I drew the line in the sand. And I said, this is not working for me anymore. And even though I was in an abusive marriage and what he was doing was not okay, what I recognized was I had to own my part in that. The
Yeah.
one commonality of everything that had happened to me as an adult was I chose it, I allowed it. I was the one commonality. I was the thing. And so I had to decide if I wanted to have something different, I was gonna have to do something different. And it started with me doing the thing, to do the
Yeah.
thing, to start to say, where do I start? And when I went on this healing journey, I had no idea what it was going to look like. Like legit, I didn't know. But what I did know and what I believed that allowed me to take that first step, I think, was that I believed that if I did this, even though I didn't know what it looked like, God would meet me there. And he did. And some wild, like the story over the last 10 years of what has happened and the people that have come into my life and the situations that didn't happen by accident. And it
Yes.
certainly wasn't me. It certainly wasn't me.
I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're stuck in a place, ladies, where caught in a loop and it's not a loop you want to be in, I just, if you don't hear anything else today, I want you to hear, if you want a chance at a different life, you can have one. All you have to do is make one choice. You don't have to make all the choices. You have to make one choice to do something different to get you closer to the life you want. And for me, what that meant was making a choice to say, it's time. It's time. And so it's so exciting to know that I went from a place of truly not caring if I woke up or
Yeah.
not to a place where I get to, like, I've truly created a life I love, one
Yeah.
choice at a time. I've done
Yeah.
it. And now I get to help other women do the same thing. It probably always will, but it still feels bigger than me. And that's because it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And and it's the same thing with me, like creating a life that I loved, like from a life that was so incredibly heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and so hard. It was so hard. And now, like, life is awesome. I love my life. I love where I'm at. I love my kids. I love the people I get to surround myself with. Like, I love it. And it's living in love. But that's why I say this is so important. Like, this even applies to us, I think, on a financial level too. And I said this a little bit in our interview earlier, is that, like, when we feel like that poor me and we're in that poor me mindset. So we're talking about, the poor mindset, the poor me, right? And like how broken I felt, how poor I felt, and all that language. Don't we use that same stuff in how we talk about money? Broke, poor, the finances have been exhausted, not enough, right? Like,
Hmm.
isn't that interesting that we use that exact same language, like how we're feeling about ourselves and our life and everything like that, that shows up in our money story,
Yeah,
that
for
exact same
sure.
languaging. And now living in love, right? Loving where we're at, looking at like what we get to create, creating more for ourselves. Like it's a beautiful opportunity now. But it takes us keeping our word to ourselves. And I look back and to that girl that was collapsed on on the floor in a puddle of snot and tears, yelling and screaming at God, doing all the things you're told not to do. Oh man, did I ever do it? Anyway, I look back at her and I think, you know, she was feeling broken, right? She was feeling like she could do nothing about it, right? Like she was feeling honestly out of control, really seriously out of control. Like things were spiraling out of control. She couldn't pull up. And this idea of not having enough love in her life was really, really showing up. And how she would honestly consistently have to abandon herself, break herself, fracture
Mm,
herself just because she was such a habit of people pleasing, right?
yeah.
And instead of like actually getting in and being the one person that kept her word to herself, I was
Yeah.
super distracted with all the people around me and saying, they're not showing up for me. 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 God's not even showing up for me. And somewhere down in my subconscious, I was saying, so why should I?
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think like there's even been a little bit of that throughout the ages. Like even a little bit of that came up the other day. Like, oh, there's that people pleasing again, right? That need to make somebody else happy, need to make it softer for someone else, need to make need to show up for someone else, right? More
Yeah.
than ourselves to some
So,
degree.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. And I'll say that what I teach the women in my community, Safe Heart Connections, my world, that's how I try and give and serve, is that if you want to change the world, most of the women I am connected to, they are the givers in the world. They're the coaches, or they're a teacher, or they're a nurse, or they're a business owner. They are actively giving. So not only are they women and we're naturally givers, but then their profession calls them to give as well. That if you want to make the impact that you were meant to make, you have to start with yourself. 100% it starts with you. So I say if you want to change the world, you have to start with you. And
Yeah.
one of the easiest things to do that, um, I am a big goal setter, and I like setting goals. I like setting realistic goals. I like watching the progress happen. You start here, you're going to get all the way over. I have some tools and tips around that, but I would say one of the things I learned in one of my trainings years ago was they called it just noticeable differences. Do just enough different, like some people say 1% different each time,
Mm-hmm.
but just enough to know you did something different. And so when you first start out on this path to create a life you love and you want to keep your word to yourself, the best way to do that is to set a goal that's so easy that you 100% know you can do it. When you say, tell somebody, this is my goal, they should say, really? That's your goal. And you're like, yep, yep. And then you do that thing for a while and you build the confidence and the trust of I'm keeping my word to myself. And then you add more to it and you add more to it. And for like, if somebody's wanting to move their body more and they're exercising or they want to exercise and they haven't done anything in a long time, the goal for the week literally could be get up and get dressed and put your tennis shoes on as if you're going to go exercise.
Yeah.
That and once you start doing that, you get your shoes on. You haven't done any exercise. You put your shoes on, right? You do that for a while and then track it. And then maybe the next thing is just walking out to I mean, step after step where you build on whatever makes sense. And you can use that for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a morning person. And I'm currently evaluating if I need to be. Um, that's a whole nother discussion. But I've started working towards getting up a little earlier just as an experiment. Because I work from home, none of my calls typically start before 10. And so I can sleep in, and I like to sleep in. But I also find that if I get up a little earlier in the day and I have a consistent morning routine, before I start work that I'm better,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I set a goal recently to where I'm going to make sure I'm up and out of bed by 8:30 every morning. And my friends and family, they're like, 8? They're laughing at me. That's your goal, 8:30? Yep. Well, you know what? I've done it every day for 3 weeks and I've started getting up at 8 a.m. now.
Oh, I love it.
And so now I'm going to work on 8 o'clock. I'm going to see, does this give me enough time to do what I need to do? It's not about getting up at 6 or 7. It's about making sure I'm setting up my day for success
Right.
and figuring out what that looks like. But if I had told myself a month ago that, oh, I want to start getting up earlier and everybody says 5 a.m., y'all, I would be so defeated right now. Ain't nobody
Tired.
need to see me at 5 a.m. Right? And so figure out what works for you. But when you can keep your word to yourself,
Yeah.
in the little things, and then you can start to trust yourself in the big things. And when you know who you are and you are living out of love and you have somebody offers you an opportunity to do A or B, it's really easy to make the decision because you know either A is going to serve you or B is going to serve you. Sometimes it does get tricky, I guess, if they're both good options, right? Then you just have
Yeah.
to use discernment and ask God to guide you and pick one. If they're both good, pick one. But usually, when you've been able to trust yourself in the small things, you'll be able to trust yourself in your decision making on the bigger things. That's why it's
Yeah.
so important.
Yes. I so agree. I so agree. And just taking that little step at a time, a friend of mine, Tiffany Peterson, she talks about like that 5% more theory and how like runners actually win races, right? Like they start first and foremost with like that 5% more. I'm just gonna kind of jog. Maybe I'm gonna jog for a little bit longer, right? Then maybe that 5% more looks like I'm gonna go just a teensy bit faster for that amount of time, right?
Hmm.
And a teeny bit faster and teeny bit faster, and then pretty soon they're like running marathons and getting really good time on the marathons, et cetera, right? Me personally, I am not going to go run a marathon. Sorry. If I'm
No.
running a marathon, there's usually a bear behind me. So, you probably want to run too, that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
But, but for me, I feel like there's lots of different marathons, quote unquote, that we run in life, right? Like the idea of self-love, that is a journey. It is absolutely a journey that we take in creating more for ourselves. And so, like, taking this, because every business owner wants, I think, is like this ability to to create more for herself, right? More cash, more support, more peace of mind, uh, and honestly, that safety, that's what she's looking for, is that safety, right? So let's take a look at the cash flow here and say, let's apply like this concept to like creation of money because that's something that every female entrepreneur, or I think every entrepreneur out there wants to do is create more money for themselves, right? So they can XYZ. They know that that's one of the first pieces, but sometimes they're unclear like what are the pieces before the creation of the money, right? Like self-love, we're talking about that. That's one of the pieces. Doing what you say you're going to do, that's one of the pieces. But how can we start by setting some financial goals for ourselves so that we can learn to trust ourselves to create money?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. And I think that the step before that is understanding that it's okay to charge. For a lot of
Mm,
women,
yeah,
myself included, we don't charge, either we don't charge anything or we don't charge what we're worth, what the market will bear. And I've had Safe Heart Connections now for 9 years, and I just started charging anything last year. And so what I found was the women that were actually coming and participating, they were the ones that had paid something, even if it was just a couple of dollars. And so the idea of wanting to make sure, because especially like as a Christian, as a woman, as a giver in the world, I felt like I wanted to make sure that anybody had access to get to the information that I had. I didn't want somebody not to be able to love themselves because I withheld it from them because they couldn't pay,
Yeah.
right? But what I found is that the women that truly participated were the only ones that did that were the ones that paid. And
Yeah.
so there's this balance to it. So understanding that one of the best things we can do for the person receiving the information and for us is to charge and to charge what it's worth and what is it just makes everything better. And so I think that's the first piece, ladies, to understand that it's necessary and needed for you to charge um,
For your
what you
services.
need to charge. Yeah,
Yeah.
charge for your services. And I'll give you a really great example. I own an admin company. That's my main gig, and it runs mostly without me. And I focus on my women's thing. Well, one of my admin clients, we were having a problem with setting up something for his business. And one of the women I know from my business networking stuff, she could help me with that. And so I messaged her. I said, "Hey, can you help me with this? I'm not asking for a freebie. This is like not because we're friends. I'm not asking you to help me. This is business." And she said, "Sure." And she sent me her link, and it was $197 to fix this thing that took just a few minutes. But it would have taken me hours and hours and hours to figure it out. And I had absolutely no problem paying her $197. But what if she thought, oh, yeah, this is a friend thing. It's not, I don't need to charge her. That's not the way it works, right?
No.
Charge. And your friends, in my opinion, should pay extra because they support you,
That's
right?
a good way to look at it. Yeah.
A friend should not be asking for a discount or a deal. Like if I'm going to go to somebody, I want to pay them what their regular people would pay, right? I'm not going to ask for a deal. I used to, and I recognized, wait a minute, that's so counterintuitive to what I'm teaching and what I believe. And so, yeah, the first step I think is really believing that you are supposed to charge. And then after that, figure out what that looks like for you. You're talking about setting goals. And so for me, since I hadn't done anything, hadn't made any money charging for Safe Heart Connections, well, the first time I did it, I host virtual summits twice a year, and they're free, but the women can upgrade to VIP status to get some extra stuff. And the first one I did last year, I had a $17 VIP upgrade, and my goal was to sell three of them for this summit. And when I first got the first one in, I started crying. It was $17, y'all. My husband was sitting there. He's like, like, you make a lot more money on other stuff, right? And I said, yeah, but this is the first one for this. And now I know it's possible. And it's continued to grow. And now I have a mastermind for coaches and I do all the stuff I do. And it's going the way it's supposed to be. If I had put a hard stop and said, no, I'm not going to charge, then so many of these other things would not have happened. So once you open your brain to the possibility that this is what it is and this is good, then God can just guide you and allow the things to just come to you that are supposed to come.
Yes. And making the decision, right, to charge. Because you're so right. You're so right. Like I charge high ticket prices, right? I have some low ticket, but I have some really high ticket. And, you know, I've sold in all of those areas, every single one of them. And I've delivered great content. But the thing is 90% of the healing journey for my clients has been taking the first step of paying, right? To actually
Mhm.
invest in themselves because it gives them a chance to put value behind what they value, right? But how can you expect someone to show up, to do the work, to value what you're doing or what you're giving when you are not valuing it yourself. It doesn't work. And that's why,
Yeah,
the charging.
I can't make that make sense
Yes.
anymore. I just
No.
can't.
No, and same here. And that's why I charge too for my services, right? Yeah, there's some value in free things, but it doesn't get as personal. Like we can get so much more personal in our groups than what we can, just on a podcast or on a YouTube channel or in the shorts and things like that. You can still give some free content. There's nothing wrong with doing freebies, right? But if you're really, really wanting transformation, that means you've got to have some type of investment. You got to have some skin in the game. And that's why these people are
Yeah.
doing more, having better results. And I'll tell you, the people that have bought into my high ticket, like my most expensive thing, have got even better results for themselves than those that have bought my $25 thing,
100,
right?
yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. That only makes sense because not just because they're paying more, but because what you're providing is more. You can provide more when you charge
Hmm.
more, right? And I've looked back on the things I've done along my healing journey, the courses, the coaching, the programs, the amount of money I've spent. And I'm like, they they didn't give it away for free,
No.
right? Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't, same here,
I didn't,
right?
and I didn't expect them to give it away for free.
No. It's
Yeah.
when we really truly value something. If we're saying, I want this, but I want it for free, we're not valuing what we say we want,
Yeah.
you
So I
know?
work with a business coach still. He was a big part of my healing journey. He didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it at the time, but I went through his coaching process in 2019 and it really opened my eyes to who God created me to be. And
Yeah.
I got better. I realized I had been trying to get better at all the things I was not good at. Now I do the things I'm good at and I'll hire and get contractors around me to help support the things that aren't for me. Um, but I was talking to him about this idea of charging a year or so ago now. And I was telling him all the things I did in Safe Heart Connections for free. And he goes, do you know any other coach online that works with women that even does a fraction of all that and they don't charge something? And I'm like, no. And so that was when, like, because when he had me list out literally everything, and he's like, and you're saying not everybody, that people aren't showing up for the calls and the things. And then it just clicked in my head. I'm like, ah, that's it. And so now I have more participation. The women are getting what they came for. I mean, I have women on these calls with me that are just in sheer gratitude. And one of the women sent me a direct message this week or at the end of last week and said, thank you, Sam. And I said, for what? And she said, for creating the tools and resources that I get to heal using.
Aw,
Really? That wouldn't have happened if she wasn't participating. And you know what? She wouldn't be participating if she hadn't have paid something.
yeah,
It's
you're
just the
right.
way it is.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. And, just thinking about this, like I see a lot of female entrepreneurs and stuff like that who are doing great businesses and stuff like that, but that charging, that's still something down deep inside of them. And it creates a fracture. Like that's is one of the things that totally still fractures them in their soul at a soul level, right? And so when we get in and we actually charge people for our services and the things that we offer, and getting in and even charging $1 for things, I will tell you something, 100%. The things I've charged $1 for have been just as hard to sell as my 5-figure offer. I am not even joking.
Ain't that the truth? That is so true.
And what's
Yeah,
even crazier, the things that I've charged 5 figures for versus the $1 thing, I actually sold those easier than the $1 thing.
because the people were bought in, they knew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree. And so one of the things I'm working on doing right now is I'm focused on YouTube for growth and share. That's where I share all my free stuff. But what I'm doing to build my audience is I'm trying to make it so that anybody that's coming into my world has paid me something based on everything we just said. And so I've created something called the 7 Minute Gratitude Blueprint, and I'm charging $7 for it. And they get a bunch of bonuses and all the things. And that way, if they go through that process, if they read the ebook, if they watch the stuff that they get for that, then they're going to be more inclined. They'll know more about me, my heart, my story, how I want to show up in the world, and they're getting something valuable that if they'll do it, could change their life. Um, so that if they end up getting on a call with me for something, then there's going to be a higher likelihood of it converting into being a potential client versus just the freebie thing. And so while I know that the higher ticket things typically do sell easier, I do believe in having a value offer
Yes.
that's a low thing just to get them into your world so they know who you are and you can drip on them. And um, I've decided that anybody I will do as much free stuff as I can on social media, but anybody that's coming into my world, they will have at least paid something because they will get more from it and it's going to help me have the impact that I'm meant to have.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
love it.
it's such a big shift. It's such a big shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness, Sam, what a good podcast episode. Getting in and actually doing what you say you're going to do. Charge what you say you're going to charge, right? And maybe even raise your prices. Like, I'll be honest, like $7, I would be like, for
Yeah, I
that, I'd
know.
be like, let's go like 25 for
Right. Well,
something like
I'm
that at
I'm
least,
doing it
right?
with the sevens. I'm doing it with the sevens, and there's an upgrade for 17 and 27 and 147. And so I'm doing like it's a
The
thing.
sevens.
But
Well, seven
yeah,
is a good number. It
yeah.
is.
I know. I mean, I could do 27, but well, anyway, I'm starting with seven. But I will say I do have a mastermind community for the women that are coaches. Um, and that mastermind is set up twofold because as givers in the world, we're always giving and doing, and we forget to take care of ourselves and creating a life you love. You have to pour into yourself to be able to give out. And so, part of what they get with the mastermind is they get to come to 2 events a year where they get to receive and then they get to teach at 2 events. I do 4 events a year. And talking about raising my prices, I just raised it. And I have a call with somebody this week asking about my mastermind. It's going to be the first time I do my new price. And so this will help hold me accountable to
I'm holding you
not going
accountable to
back.
so doing it.
And so but what I'm doing is a big part of it is coming to these events. And
Hmm.
so I've included the price of the event in the price. So they pay for it for the whole year, and it includes coming to the in-person retreat in Texas or wherever we're going. It's Texas this year. Next year it may be somewhere else, but the price includes the retreat because you need this part of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so before I was saying pay for the mastermind, and then if you can come to the retreat, then you can pay for that. And I wasn't charging enough for the retreat either. That's a whole nother story. But now I'll report back and let you know how it goes after my call with her.
I love it. Well, one last piece of advice that I think I'm going to share is also if you're raising your prices, be confident in your price raise, I should say, because um, here's the thing. If you're confident in your prices and you don't over
Oh, yeah, it's
explain
totally
them,
worth it.
the
Yeah.
thing is those people will be confident in your prices and your ability too. That's like 90% of the game right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sales, raising your prices. And again, do what you say you're going to do. If you're confident in taking one step, just like Sam was saying, take that step. A lot of people might even be like, that's your goal. It's fine. Take the step,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can make one step. I can do two steps. I can do three steps. I can do four steps, right? Tomorrow I'm going to do five. Next day I'm going to do six, right? And just those little tiny increments, if you're going to drip on somebody, drip on yourself too,
Yeah.
right?
100%. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just
that's so
remember,
good.
to be confident in if you're raising your prices, be confident in that price range, price raise.
Yeah.
Good grief, I can't say it. But anyway, you get the the
Yeah.
gist of
I
it,
get it.
okay? I love
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
All right.
Yeah, and so I would just add to that just quickly that you're talking about drip on yourself. I want to go back to if you want to have the impact you're supposed to have in the world, you have to keep your cup so full to the overflow so that when you give, you're not giving out of a state of depletion.
Yes,
Because when you give from the overflow, that's when you can give in kind, generous, loving ways and watch the magic happen.
I love it. Sam, you were a jewel, a gem.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for hanging out with us today. Again, one more time, where can people find you if they want to come and check you out?
So if they go to Safe Heart Connection, if they go on and search, you can just on YouTube search Sam Moorison Wilson or Safe Heart Connections, and I'll pop up on YouTube. There's a ton of free stuff there. If you go to safeheartconnections.com, that's my website. I'm actually in process of doing some updates right now where it'll guide you to YouTube. Or if you're ready to go on a self-love makeover where I actually guide you on a 10-week online course with Q&A and all this stuff, there's a bunch that comes with it. Then you can click through to learn about that. And it's really for the what you're getting, the price will be going up, but right now,
It's
um,
a good price.
you can, it's a good price. Yeah. So come on in. The water's fine.
Oh,
Thank you,
I
Erin.
love it. I love it. Thanks so much, Sam, for coming and joining us today. And also, guys, if you want access to my boundaries course, remember that um, the price is going to be going up on that pretty soon too. So drop me a message if you want in on the boundaries course. And until then, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
All right, Boundary Boss Babes. I'm super excited that you tuned in with me today. Make sure you tune in again next week as we chat about more Boundary Boss Babe topics. We're going to get into so many other things about how to set boundaries with your business, how to set boundaries with your relationships, so you can truly have the time, the money, and the flexibility that you are seeking. So tune in next week. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Let your other Boss Babe friends know about it. And also, if you've got any questions, make sure you submit them into the podcast by clicking on the send us a text message at the bottom of the podcast description. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. See you later, Boss Babes.